Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO. By the way, if you're looking to where to go and vote, go to KFYO.com. You can go to votelubbock.org, but at KFYO.com, we've got a story up there. We've got a list of voting locations, link you could go to find those voting locations, over 37 vote locations in Lubbock County where you can go and vote. We had a listener wondering about Northwest Lubbock. 1302 North Frankfort Avenue, Broadview Baptist Church, and also Catholic Diocese of Lubbock at 4624th Street. Good places you could stop by, and have not heard about any lines at those locations as of yet. All right, let's go to the phones. Our next guest, Republican strategist, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you today?
I am doing great, Chad. Sorry about the Red Raiders' narrow overtime loss last night.
Oh, yeah.
Tough subject.
It is. It's been a tough year.
Tough week when you play the number 1 and number 4 teams in the same week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Matt, it's Super Tuesday. I guess we'll start off with the new dynamic, and it really is a new dynamic in the race for the Democrat nomination. I don't know if either of us really expected for both Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg to drop out by yesterday, but they have. What does this mean for the race moving forward for Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, I actually, in a strange way, I think there's a risk that Biden may underperform tonight, given that now there's this sense that he's the only one that can stop Bernie and that he's got huge momentum. You know, I just don't know what the real effect of Amy and Pete and Beto all endorsing him last night really is. You know, how many people were really planning to go vote for them today after already seeing that those, I mean, certainly Beto was already out of the mix, but the other two really have not been, you know, sort of competitive the last 10 days or so. So, but that said, look, this is important momentum for Biden. I think it's certainly going to sap whatever momentum Bloomberg had going into Super Tuesday, where he obviously needed to perform well. I think he's going to underperform tonight and not win even one state. I think there's a chance Biden wins 4 or 5 states, southern states, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, and then Bernie's going to win the rest. And so, you know, the question's going to be, what does the delegate count look like after tonight? I think Bernie, because of California and perhaps Texas, is going to have a pretty solid lead, maybe a couple hundred delegates. And given that Democrats allocate delegates proportionally, that may be the kind of lead that you simply cannot overcome. So the only real path for Biden is going to be to prevent Bernie from getting a majority by the time they go to Milwaukee and try to win the majority on the second or perhaps third ballot. So that I think that's the dynamic we're looking at tonight. We'll see how Biden does in the South. We'll see how Sanders does in some of these other states. You know, I'll be watching to see if Elizabeth Warren loses her home state. I think her team has been pushing to keep her in, and if she loses tonight, they will have made a major miscalculation that risks, you know, her being open to a challenge down the road when she runs for re-election. So, yeah, lots to watch, and of course, as you know, there's a lot of action in Texas down ballot.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to some of those and what you'll be watching on the down ballot races, what do you think? Who do you think wins Texas? Do you think that it's Bernie's tonight?
I do, and the reason I believe that is. You know, first of all, I think the numbers have been pretty close between the two, but even more so, you know, Biden's surge has really only occurred over the last, let's say, 3 days. And early voting ended Friday, and his surge didn't start until Saturday night. And so, you know, the reality of that is I think even if Biden wins Election Day, I think he's going to lose early votes statewide. Now, look, again, you know, Texas allocates delegates by congressional district. There's going to be a split. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a really meaningful advantage for Bernie. He'll probably win his share of the statewide delegates by winning the state. So we'll see. Unless Biden just has a massive surge and gets like 70% of the vote today, I think there's probably not enough vote to make up for the deficit. You know, that would have been created by early voting. Bloomberg, I imagine, is going to do far better in early voting than he's going to do on Election Day. You're going to have a lot of votes go to people like Pete and Amy, and those people that voted for them are not voting for someone like Bernie. So I just think the early vote's going to be spread among a lot of people, and the numbers are going to be kind of weird. And then Election Day is probably going to be mostly Biden and Bernie, and Biden will do better, but I think he's going to come up short. That's my guess.
What down ballot races will you be paying attention to this evening?
Well, there's a lot of them. I think obviously for West Texans, you got two congressional primaries on the Republican side that have very large fields, a lot of money spent, accusations about carpetbagging, and all kinds of issues. So obviously we're going to have runoffs on both sides. I guess there's a chance Chris Ekstrom maybe avoids a runoff. I just think there are too many candidates to not have that happen. So we'll see kind of who comes out of those two. I think in terms of other races, you've got two congressional incumbents facing challenges: Kay Granger in Fort Worth and Henry Cisneros on the Democratic side. Henry Cuellar in South Texas. I think they both are going to succeed and get reelected tonight. We'll see what the numbers look like. Maybe Granger's race is closer, but they're both going to be, I think, reelected. If one of them's not, it's going to be a real earthquake. We'll see who the Democratic candidates are for U.S. Senate. They're going to go into a runoff. I'm predicting it's MJ Hager in first and perhaps Royce West, the state senator from Dallas, in second. We'll see if Christina Simpson Ramirez, the progressive candidate, can get into second. There's a lot of other action, a lot of other congressional primaries. You've got a couple Texas House incumbents that could lose, including J.D. Sheffield from Central Texas. A lot to watch. I mean, I've got 20 or 30 or maybe 40 races I'm watching personally in Texas. I do think one thing I will just say, Chad, is there's going to be a lot of chatter about how high the Democratic primary turnout is compared to Republicans. I think after early voting, Republicans had like an 80,000 vote advantage statewide on primary turnout. I wouldn't read too much into that. That has almost everything to do with the fact that they have a very active, expensive, competitive presidential primary, and Republicans don't. I don't think that's predictive at all in terms of November.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. Hey, I wanted to ask you before I let you go, it seems like the national news media are fascinated with this Jessica Cisneros. I think the Politico had her as the new Green Deal Democrat, hoping for an upset. Is it just me, or is the Texas media sort of ignoring her campaign because there's not much of a chance she's going to win?
Well, there's been enormous spending, and I think we have to, we have to realize that. And it's not because necessarily she's a good candidate; it's because they think Henry Cuellar is a target, because he is generally pretty pro oil and gas. He is, more moderate on guns. He is more moderate on life than your more progressive Democratic members. He's also an extremely effective member of Congress for South Texas. He's one of the most respected members of the delegation. He works in a bipartisan way. He's diligent. His constituent service is excellent. He just has an excellent reputation. He was a Secretary of State appointed by former Governor George W. Bush, and has been in Congress since then. So I just think, I've watched that race pretty closely, know some people on both sides. I think Cuellar, is basically the candidate that has local support, and Cisneros is the candidate that has sort of outside support. And I'd always rather have local support than outside support. And she's really not tied to the district, wasn't well known. She's pretty young. Just really wasn't all that established. So this was about trying to get a scalp for the progressive left. I think they picked the wrong district to do that in. South Texas is not progressive. It's generally pro-life. It's very Catholic. It's very socially conservative. Even on the Democratic side, it's very pro-Second Amendment. So they may have bit off more than they can chew there. We'll see. If it's close, he'll get challenged again down the road, maybe by her, maybe by someone else. If he wins more like 57-43, which is kind of what I'm thinking, he's going to be in strong shape going forward, and they'll move on to some other district down the road. All
right, Matt, tell folks how they can sign up for your newsletter and how they can listen to your podcast.
Yeah, today'd be a really good day to sign up for the newsletter. We'll have an absolutely comprehensive summary of all the primary elections around the state in tomorrow morning's Must Read Texas morning newsletter. You can sign up for $3.50 a month at mustreadtexas.com. You can get a free 1-week trial so you can check it out and see if you like it. 3,000 Texans receive it every day. The podcast is called Mac on Politics. It's available in the iTunes Store, on Google Play, on Stitcher, and on Spotify.
All right, very good, Matt. Thank you as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, have a great week. Take care.
That's Matt Mackowiak here on the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk KFYO.